This afternoon, I want to assure you of two things. I am concerned about this case. And as we confirmed last spring, the Justice Department has an open investigation into it. Now, while that inquiry is ongoing, I can promise that the Department of Justice will consider all available information before determining what action to take. But independent of the legal determination that will be made, I believe this tragedy provides yet another opportunity for our nation to speak honestly, and openly about the complicated and emotional charged issues that this case has raised. Years ago, some of these same issues drove my father to sit down with me, to have a conversation, which is no doubt familiar to many of you, about how as a young black man I should interact with the police, what to say, and how to conduct myself if I was ever stopped or confronted in a way that I thought was unwarranted. Now, I'm sure my father felt certain at that time that my parents' generation would be the last that had to worry about such things for their children. Since those days, our country has indeed changed for the better. The fact that I stand before you as the 82nd Attorney General of the United States, serving in the administration of our first African-American president, proves that. Yet, for all the progress that we've seen, recent events demonstrate that we still have much more work to do and much further to go. The news of Trayvon Martin's death last year and the discussions that have taken place since then reminded me of my father's words so many years ago. And they brought me back to a number of experiences that I had as a young man, when I was pulled over twice and my car searched on the New Jersey Turnpike when I'm sure I wasn't speeding, or when I was stopped by a police officer while simply running to catch a movie at night in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. I was, at the time of that last incident, a federal prosecutor. So, Trayvon's death last spring caused me to sit down to have a conversation with my own 15-year-old son, like my dad did with me. This was a father-son tradition I hoped would not need to be handed down. But as a father who loves his son and who is more knowing in the ways of the world, I had to do this to protect my boy. I am his father, and it is my responsibility not to burden him with the baggage of eras long gone, but to make him aware of the world that he must still confront. This is a sad reality in a nation that is changing for the better in so many ways. As important as it was, I am determined to do everything in my power to ensure that the kind of talk I had with my son isn't the only conversation that we engage in as a result of these tragic events. In the days leading up to this weekend's verdict, some predicted and prepared for riots and waves of civil unrest across the country. Some feared that the anger of those who disagreed with the jury might overshadow and obscure the issues of the heart of this case. But the people of Sanford, and for the most part thousands of others across America, rejected this destructive past. They proved wrong those who doubted their commitment to the rule of law. And across America, diverse groups of citizens from all races, backgrounds, and walks of life are instead overwhelmingly making their voices heard, as American citizens have the right to do, through peaceful protests, rallies, and vigils designed to inspire responsible debate, not to incite violence and division. And those who conduct themselves in a contrary manner do not honor the memory of Trayvon Martin. I hope that we will continue to approach this necessarily difficult dialogue with the same dignity that those who have lost the most, Trayvon's parents, with the same dignity that they have demonstrated throughout the last year, and especially over the past few days. We should be proud of those two people. they suffered a pain that no parent should have to endure, and one that I, as a father, cannot begin to conceive. As we embrace their example, and as we hold them in our prayers, we must not forgo this opportunity to better understand one another. And we must not fail to seize this chance to improve this nation that we cherish. Today, starting here and starting now, it's time to commit ourselves to a respectful, responsible dialogue about issues of justice and equality, so we can meet division and confusion with understanding and compassion, and ultimately with truth, however hard that is. It's time to strengthen our collective resolve to combat gun violence, but also time to combat violence involving or directed toward our children, so we can prevent future tragedies. And we must confront the underlying attitudes, the mistaken beliefs, and the unfortunate stereotypes that serve too often as the basis for police action and private judgments. Separate and apart from the case that has drawn the nation's attention, it's time to question laws that senselessly expand the concept of self-defense and sow dangerous conflict in our neighborhoods. These laws try to fix something that was never broken. There has always been a legal defense for using deadly force if, and the if is important, if no safe retreat is available. But we must examine laws that take this further by eliminating the common sense and age-old requirement that people who feel threatened have a duty to retreat outside their home if they can do so safely. By allowing and perhaps encouraging violent situations to escalate in public, such laws undermine public safety. The list of resulting tragedies is long and unfortunately has victimized too many who are innocent. It is our collective obligation. We must stand our ground to ensure that our laws reduce violence and take a hard look at laws that contribute to more violence than they prevent. We must also seek a dialogue on attitudes about violence and disparities that are too commonly swept under the rug, by honoring the finest traditions established by generations of NAACP leaders and other nonviolent advocates throughout history, and by paying tribute to the young man who lost his life here last year, and so many others whose futures have been cut short in other incidents of gun violence that pass too often unnoticed in our streets. And we must do so by engaging with one another in a way that is at once peaceful, inclusive, respectful, and strong. As we move forward together, I want to assure you that the Department of Justice will continue to act in a manner that is consistent with the facts and the law. We will not be afraid. We are committed to doing everything possible to ensure that in every case, in every circumstance, and in every community, justice must be done.